But I just want to say hi, I'm Desmond Tan.
Maybe we should instill some military messaging at the grassroots. Like, everybody go for a march.
No, I have no strategy for social media. If it's the first GE and I'm a new candidate, I think I'll probably have more anxiety. Actually, I lost about 3.5 kilograms in the 9 days in my first GE, believe it or not.
He was a military man with almost 30 years in the Singapore Armed Forces and then swapped his army boots for grassroots when he joined the People's Association. 5 years ago, Senior Minister of State Desmond Tan became a first-time Member of Parliament. Today, he is with me on the usual place to talk about life as a politician, how he deals with criticism, and what his GE prep game plan is should he run again. Hi, SMS. Welcome to the usual place.
Hi, Natasha. Thank you for having me.
How's it going?
So far, so good.
So far, so good.
I hope you're having a good year-end break as well.
As you mentioned, year-end, we're going into a new year.
Yes.
And this is the year for a general election, which has to be called by November 2025, right?
That's right.
Yes, yeah. And it's been about 4 years since
and a half.
4.5.
Yes,
okay.
We're counting by months now.
Oh gosh, okay. Has it been long 4.5 years for you?
Well, yes and no. It feels like it's so long, right? And it's only 4.5 years. No, because there's so much to be done. And I feel that being a first-term Member of Parliament, there's so much to be learned as well. So it's a role, and I wouldn't call it a job because I feel that it's an elected role that has no fixed job description. There's no fixed terms of reference. You as a representative or I as a representative must be prepared to understand what the ground needs, what the residents' needs are, and then do our best to help bridge the gap for our people, our community, and also to help bridge the gap with the government.
So Are you everything to everyone?
In a way. But there is really no fixed terms. Like you just have to be prepared to do anything and lean forward to do your best to help our people.
So since you've become an MP, what is something unexpected that you've learned about the job and what's the hardest part about it?
I wouldn't say there is anything that kind of took me by surprise totally, partly because I was in the People's Association and being on the ground with the community, I do see a part of the role of the Member of Parliament as a grassroots advisor. So that community role is quite clear to me. Maybe I would say that the parliamentary part is something quite new. I've never personally partaken in the parliamentary debates or passed any bills. So that's a role that I felt quite enriching because you now get to help people, you get to formulate policy, and you get to debate this in Parliament. So I actually passed 5 bills in the first 2 years of my term as a Member of Parliament, as a Minister of State. And that was quite fulfilling, and I find that meaningful.
Soon after you won your seat in Pasir Ris Punggol GRC, right, you became Minister of State for Home Affairs and Sustainability and the Environment. Then you later now you're a Senior Minister of State. What do you say to people who say that you have climbed quite quickly since you joined as a first-term MP and then, risen through the ranks? What do you have to say about that?
Well, as an MP, we don't have any ranks. We are all representative in a sense. So
I mean like in positions.
In government.
Yeah, in government.
So of course, we appreciate the recognition by Prime Minister on our contributions. But actually, in this role, I think we see ourselves as finding the best way for us to contribute to the party, to the government, as well as to the country and our people. So I don't expect myself to be promoted to hold certain positions. So I think we'll let the government and the Prime Minister decide based on our attributes, based on our strengths, how we can best contribute to different policy roles. So I was in the Ministry of Home Affairs and Sustainability for about 2 years. And then now I'm in the labour movement. And I felt very motivated. Actually, I felt very energized when I went to the labour movement because that's something that I enjoy doing, having a lot of interaction with people, making a difference to the lives of not just constituents now, but workers among our community and the economy. So a different set of work, but I feel quite inspired and energized in the last 2.5 years. Yeah.
Does it affect you when, I don't know if you read the comments online, but going back to what I earlier asked, there are criticisms of, the people in office, right? It's natural, it comes with the job, but do you ever get imposter syndrome? like some of us do?
Well, sometimes you do because actually, like it or not, you have to really level up very quickly in any policy position. And you are not an expert overnight, right? We all have to learn. But actually, we didn't start off with a clean slate. I have been in public policy for many years, so in different policy roles, right? So being able to now understand different policy requirements and then making effort not just to get a briefing, but also to engage different groups, go to the ground, see for ourselves. So when I was passing the bill for the Control of Ammunition or Weapons Act, right? So I had to visit some of the ammo depot, I have to visit the rifle range, I have to visit some of the warehouses to see the impact of our policy on people on the ground. Because you can't just make the changes by theoretically understanding some of the larger pictures, but you have to go to the ground, talk to different people, how you affect them. So that's the part I think we just have to apply ourselves, do our best, go and touch base with the ground, don't just stay in the office, you know. I think then you feel that you're more empowered, you're more equipped to perform your role in Parliament. Yeah.
Okay. So you may get the criticism in person also.
Oh, yes. I mean, criticism is part and parcel of life, right? I mean, as a politician, we also must be prepared that we are not always correct. There is no one policy that will please 100% of the people. There will be people who think that this is the right way. There will be equally people who feel that, no, this is totally absurd. So then what is the criteria for us to decide is based on the values that this government believes in, the policy intent, and how you benefit the larger good of the community. I think these are some of the considerations that will guide us. And then, of course, there will be a group of people who will criticize us, whether online or offline. I think we just learn to deal with it, learn to respect their views as well, because they are not wrong. It's just a different perspective, different stakeholders, and then try to explain our best to tell them why we take certain positions. That's a constant work of policy that you have to do.
Yeah. Does it get you down though? Because I mean, in terms of like looking at what people are saying, I mean, of course, one of the common things that comes out is you're an army man, you were in the SAF for 30 years and then now you join politics. Being Deputy Secretary of NTUC, you took some heat recently because of the Allianz Income deal, right? And online, some say that, you know, you may not have the experience necessary. So what's your take on that particular incident?
Well, I think people are really looking at a particular issue from different perspectives. So there is no right or no wrong. So my job is to convey our position from the Central Committee, from NTUC, and I spoke the truth. Of course, we all have to speak the truth, right? But of course, people's expectations of what the Central Committee ought to do or not to do, or ought to be able to know, is it may not be tally with what is in reality. So at the end of the day, I think we have to be very clear in our mind, in our hearts, that this is the right thing to do. And sometimes there may be disagreement with opinions, but we have to continue our path. And as long as I speak the truth and I'm clear about my conscience, I have nothing to worry about. Criticism, I think I'm maybe being part of the army does help to strengthen some parts of it.
Which part did the army help with that?
Well, we have to be resilient, right? We have to be resilient. Whether it's physical pain or online criticism, these are part and parcel of our character building and resilience. So I think maybe I learned to take things a little bit more easy. And I actually don't read a lot of online comments or so. I've learned to just do my job and let people express how they feel. And more importantly, it's about my own stakeholders, people who put their trust on me. I make a point, extra effort to explain to them why I take certain positions, why I say what I said, and my conscience are clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to ask you about was your social media game. It's something that politicians just can't escape.
Yeah.
Some do it better, some just no. I don't know. How do you think you fare on the social media game?
I'm personally, I'm not a very big social media person.
I have realized that.
Yeah. But I do find that there's utility in it. It allows me to reach out to a larger group of audience that I can do house visits every week, right? But I think through social media, I can amplify some of the things that I'm doing, give an account to my residents and voters that I have been walking the ground, and not just towards the election, but I've been doing that since the day I was elected, and it's not stopped. So it's all accounted for in my social media.
But do you like being on it in the first place? Because I saw one of you with your daughter in the car singing Taylor Swift.
Oh yeah. Well, those are yeah.
I don't know whether she forced you to do it.
Okay, I'll put it that way, right? I have no strategy for social media. I'll be very honest with it. But that in itself could be a strategy, right? Having no strategy. So I tend to go with the flow. I tend to do more to reflect what I've been doing. Let my residents know that I'm working hard. My workers know that I'm working hard for them. And yeah, and as and when, like, I posted a photo of my family recently, and it just comes out because I felt that maybe year end, we should kind of remind everybody about the importance of taking time for our family. And what better way than to show my own family to say that we are making effort, because my children are growing big, right? So
how old are they?
26, 23, and 13. So I hardly see the 26-year-old because he's working, and 23 is studying overseas. So it's an annual time for us to just spend together, and just having meals together. We do exercise together. I think those are things that I enjoy, and I thought maybe I just put it out there. It's not part of the strategy. I didn't plan it at the start of the year.
What do they think of your social media game, your children? They're like,
I think, yeah. They think I can't make it. Yeah. So, well, they know that I don't have a strategy. So they just say that I actually just do whatever you feel is right for you.
And they're okay with being on it. Because some
okay.
kids may not want to,
They are okay. Generally, they are okay. In fact, when I first started, I was quite not so proficient in even posting and doing live story and all that. So I had to take some tutorial from my sons about it.
They're like, do this, do a live now.
Yeah, and how to do it. And then now, but there are more and more features, and then you just learn along the way. Yeah. Thankfully, I have good volunteers who was quite prepared to help me to at least manage my social media in a credible, respectable way. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you about your time in the military, because you spent a large part of your life, almost 30 years. That's a long time. And then going on to politics later on is a huge change and adjustment, right? Is that something you miss about military life, and is that something you're glad to have left behind?
Definitely, I miss the military life, right? I mean, almost 30 years, you can't say that you don't miss a bit of it. I miss wearing the uniform. I love waking up wearing uniform. Yeah, it's
That's
true.
intense.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about what you wear today, right? So you just wake up, you're going to wear the uniform. And I miss the camaraderie, the brotherhood. We call the brotherhood of the military, the army. I miss some of the physical activities that we go through together, some of the missions that we call missions. So these are the things that I do enjoy, and that's why I stayed so long in the army. Well, maybe at this age now, I don't miss the very long marches and the overnight missions and all that. I don't think my body can handle it. But it's also these things that forge the most indelible mark and memories that we can never forget. Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, it's about the people. I do miss my friends, but thankfully I still catch up with them every now and then. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe we should instill some military messaging at the grassroots. Like, everybody go for a march before you start work or something. Or do you have some practices that you've brought over from the army to?
Well, one thing I realized that actually every organization, every entity is different. They have different mission, they have different cultures, and therefore you can't just port over the whole thing lock, stock and barrel and then expect that this organization can relive that culture that you are so accustomed to, right? So you have to, in fact, when I went to the grassroots, I had to learn what the grassroots is all about, what People's Association means, and the cultures and the sense of mission. And it's still a very people-oriented organization. People just work for each other. They support each other. So that camaraderie is still very strong. But, you can't just give an order. Like in the army, perhaps, maybe there's more deference to ranks, positions, and you get things done faster. But in the grassroots, you have to spend a lot of time convincing your volunteers about what is good. So as a chief executive, for example, I could possibly say that, I want to do this and let's just do it. I give an order, right? But that's not going to work. In the military, maybe at a certain level, even then in the military has changed quite a fair bit. We do a lot of consultation. We talk about find the best solution and then before we move. So I think much so in the grassroots organization, there's a lot of persuasion, there's a lot of discussion, consensus building. And at the end of the day, we want the grassroots and the residents to have ownership. So they do it because they believe in it, not because somebody told them they have to do it, right? So, and a good example was yesterday's Monday, Saturday's Streets party, right? So it actually arose from a few of the residents' suggestion. They say that actually we have this street and they're all kind of like so many flats or condos alongside. Why don't we close the road and, do a party at some point in time? I said, wow, that's quite ambitious, right? But why not? If this is what they feel that it is good for them, and our job is to try to lean forward to see, okay, let's see how we can make it happen. And I was really happy that it turned out pretty well. Thousands of people came down and they appreciate that the party is just right at the doorsteps. There was some inconveniences with the traffic. We have to close the road and things like that. But by and large, for half a day, I think residents get to meet each other. And this is what I think community building is about. And as a grassroots advisor for PA, I feel that that's my role, to bring people together and to forge a closer link for Singapore and for Pasir Ris.
After leaving the military and then you went into the grassroots and then you became an MP, right? Is there something about Singaporeans you learned that you never expected to learn, and from being out there on the ground, you found out something about who Singaporeans are at the heart of it?
Well, nothing kind of strikes me that this is really, wow, I've never come across this is Singapore, because I grew up here, right? I live in a HDB for over 30 years. I know what the heartland is all about. I live with many neighbors of different races and religions. So I don't think anything kind of surprised me to say that, wow, I didn't expect this. But as a member, like I said, there is no clear job description. So I think the kind of issues that I'm asked to deal with sometimes can be quite encompassing. And some of these are very personal issues, right? I mean, I deal with a lot of appeals for assistance, financial assistance, housing assistance, neighborly disputes, scams. These are real sort of issues that we, as a member of parliament, we go forward and help. But sometimes there were really quirky ones that I find very difficult to handle. And it's quite personal, right? It's a relationship between family members, for example, right? So how do
they come to the MP to ask for help?
Yeah, actually. So they do come and see us for different issues, including sort of family rivalry disputes. Neighborly disputes, of course, is quite common. But sometimes even within the family, there are issues that they have to deal with. And
then how?
Well, we can't solve all the problems, so we will lend a listening ear to hear. Sometimes by just engage, they come to us because either they have nobody else to turn to and they trust us, right? So that's a good thing. So we will make an effort to listen to their needs. And some of them have issues with authorities, right? Personal issues, so very, very angry with authorities, either with the police or with some other authorities. And then they will come and rant and say they are unhappy, the system is not fair. So we just have to listen to them, help them to narrow down exactly how do you want us to help you. And sometimes we are able to help them to understand issues from a different perspective. But other times we are just we're just able to journey with them through these difficult times that they are going through. Yeah, so quite interesting. Like I said, sometimes I feel like I'm a therapist or counselor, right? So it's everybody coming to us for advice, which I think I appreciate, but I don't have all the answers. And that's where sometimes I feel a bit inadequate. But we know there are agencies, there are professional bodies who can help them. So we usually will then write to these entities to see how we can get support for our residents. Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about the big thing happening this year. No, not SG60. But also big.
SG60,
Is SG60?
Yeah, SG60. Every 5 years, we want to commemorate our nationhood. It's a big thing, you know. It's a big thing.
But the other big thing that must happen this year, this one must happen this year. So it's the general election, right? So 2020 was your first one. Not trying to be presumptuous, but I assume you will be running in this GE.
I hope so, certainly. Yeah.
What is one thing you've learned from the 2020 GE that you will take into the next one?
Well, 2020 was quite a unique one. I think you can imagine, right?
Because of COVID, right?
Because of COVID. So we couldn't do a few things. Rally was one I've never experienced. I've never done a rally. So I'm not sure how.
Will you get stage fright?
I don't know. But I don't think so. If it's the first GE and I'm a new candidate, I think I'll probably have more anxiety. But given that I have been there for 4.5 years, I will probably know most of the residents or at least some of them would have met me. And I have something to show in that I've done something for the community, right? So that's something that,
It's my report card.
Yeah, so at least I can sort of convince them that this is what I've done. And I hope that they can give me a chance to continue the work that I've done. And this is how I'm going to pitch my rally, if there is one. So I will basically speak very candidly about how I feel about the estate, how I feel about the community, and how as an elected member of parliament, if elected, how I intend to serve the residents and to make Pasir Ris a better town. Yeah.
Did you know that people called you down to earth Desmond online during the first election? Did you know this?
Well, I read some of the feedback.
Do you agree with it?
Generally I think it's just who I am, right? So sometimes you think of yourself as a certain persona, but what is important is that actually, you know, when you take a step to go politics, you know, people who knows you, people who interacts with you may or may not come out and say something, right? So I was quite surprised in a sense that many of the people I work with in the military, some of them are national service full-time servicemen, and they had contact with me in my career because I serve as an infantry leader and guards, right? So I have interaction with many soldiers, and I wouldn't expect some of the stories that came out. In fact, I couldn't even remember some of the stories that came out, but apparently it made a difference to them. And I'm glad that I made a positive impact to some of them. And they kind of provided sort of a feedback for my campaign, a positive one, and I appreciate their support in that sense. Yeah.
So I have to ask, what keeps you down to earth?
Well,
is it your upbringing?
That's a difficult question to answer. You know, I mean, this is who I am, right? So this is part and parcel of my upbringing. I think if you ask anybody who has worked with me, interacted with me, they will see me, hopefully, quite unchanged over the years, right? So whether I'm in the military as a young recruit or I became a senior officer in the army, I think I tried to live by some of the principles which kept me grounded on the earth. So I think some of these principles is just very basic respect for other people, regardless of their position, regardless of their place in society. Everybody is important, and we do our best to help improve the lives of everyone around us. That's my fundamental belief. Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you a chance. If you had a chance to change that tagline, down to earth Desmond, what would you call yourself?
I don't think I want to have a label for myself.
Okay, you're just Desmond Tan.
Just Desmond Tan.
MP for Pasir Ris Punggol.
That's right. So, you know, when I started the social media, my team said that you need to have a label. You need to have like, hi, I'm whatever, and then I'm so. I said, but I just want to say, hi, I'm Desmond Tan. You know, this is who I am. So you make your own conclusion, what kind of person I am, how I impact your lives. I'm not going to label myself because of my past or because of my values and principles or because of my vision or my future goals. So I'll just introduce myself as Desmond Tan, and whether you are a colleague of mine, you're my boss, or you're my residents, everybody call me Desmond Tan, and that's how I want it to be. Yeah.
Okay. Interestingly, I want to go back to something you said about being about MPS, right? When you meet people and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you think people expect a lot of their MPs? And does it differ according to age group? Like, does the older folk, expect you to be there like 24/7, or the Gen Zs are like, all right, we'll connect with you on IG, like, or whatever it is? Do you think Singaporeans expect a lot out of their MPs?
I think the expectations has definitely gone up over the years. I mean, I just ask myself whether have I ever personally as a Singaporean growing up in the heartlands, have I ever thought about going to see the MP? Have I ever thought about asking the MP to resolve my community problems? I haven't. So when I was growing up in the 3-bedroom HDB, right? So there was smoke everywhere. My neighbor was a fishmonger.
We got smoke.
Cigarette smoke.
Oh, cigarette smoke.
People
okay.
are smoking. That time in the 70s, 80s, smoking is more prevalent, right? So my family members smoke. So it's like, this is normal, lah, right? And there'll be noise on the neighbors, and there'll be, things will not work well. But we just get on with it. If you can solve it, just solve it. Let's just resolve the issues. But I think as we progress to become perhaps more affluent, more educated, I think our expectations of how our estate ought to be, how our living environment ought to be, I think has also gone up. And because the expectations has gone up, I think sometimes the reality may not meet our expectations. So when that happens, you try your best to resolve it. But if everybody feels that they are not prepared to give in, and so a simple case in point is about neighborly disputes over either noise or smoke or even things outside the corridor, right? I mean, in the past, these are very common, but nobody really cares about it, right? Just live with it, lah. As long as there's no safety breaches, I can walk past, carry on. But today we have people who feel that the spaces should be shared. We shouldn't have so much clutter. There shouldn't be any smoke coming out to my room and things like that. Yeah, I mean, these are all genuine concerns. I can understand that. But at the same time, the expectations sometimes cannot be met. And then they'll come to the member of parliament and say that this is something that MP, either we got to bring it up in parliament, which we do, or we try to resolve it on the ground. I feel that as a society, I hope that we will become more and more, as we become more developed, as we become more affluent and progressive, we also learn to be more gracious and be kind and just cut each other some slack. Maybe also come together to try and find a way to resolve problems or to find a way to live together. And we are becoming more crowded. Let's not deny the fact that as a community, we have more and more flats. We have more and more young people wanting to live on their own. So therefore, the expectations of how the estate need to be managed. So I'm talking a lot about estate because this is my top priority in Pasir Ris. I want to make sure that Pasir Ris will continue. We are going through a major remaking of Pasir Ris. So it's construction site all over the place. And therefore, I spend quite a bit of effort trying to address many of the concerns that the residents have. Yeah. So forgive me if I talk a lot about estate issues. Yeah.
It's okay. You're the MP for the area, so...
Yeah. It is my main preoccupation, to be honest. So I would say that the estate part, building a nicer home, is one of my most important target I want to achieve over the last 4.5 years. And I hope that in the next term, if I get to continue to stay there, I will do my part to get there.
Okay. So how are you getting ready mentally, physically, emotionally for the next GE period?
Well, physically, I think I'm okay. As long as I stay healthy. I have been working out also. Every week I can find time to be fit. Actually, I lost about 3.5 kilograms in the 9 days in my first GE. Believe it or not, it was quite intense.
What happened?
No, it was quite intense. We woke up like 5 a.m. and then we were at the MRT station every single day at the peak hour just to meet and greet our residents, get their support, and introduce myself because I'm new, right? So I had to do that in the morning at the peak hour. I have to do that in the evening at the peak hour every day for the 9 days. And then in between, we will be doing house visits. So it's quite intense because I felt that we need to make an effort to let the people know that we are here to fight for the opportunity to serve them, to be their representative. So I will not spare any effort. And that's why I lost 3.5 kg after the 9 days.
No time to eat. You were like running from place to place.
So in a way, I'm putting on weight now so that I can lose some weight when the time comes.
Okay.
I think emotionally, I think I'm probably more ready this time round if I'm called, mainly because I have put in a lot of effort and hard work in Pasir Ris already. I know a lot of families, and we became actually friends, and some of them invite me to their children's graduation and things like that. So I do appreciate their relationship, and even with some of the seniors, I see them every fortnight, and there was already a relationship built, and I feel that emotionally I'm probably more prepared to commit and also to be able to serve them in the next term. Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to ask you one last thing about the quote. I think it's on the PAP website about what you said. I think all of you have a quote that you guys put. Do you remember what's yours?
I think it's about family, right?
Something no leftovers for family.
Yeah,
what do you mean by that?
Okay, so this came from a very senior officer I respected a lot when I was serving the military. Unfortunately, he passed away through a physical activity. So that was more than 18 years ago, I think, thereabout. So, and he said something about, we all know family is most important. And I personally put family as the most important. But the way he put it is that, we should never leave the leftover for our families. And from that particular phrase, it dawned on me that actually, it may sound straightforward, but actually what I have been doing was actually exactly what he's encouraging us not to do. You go through a day's work, right? You wake up early and then you work your butts out and then you come home. Whatever energy you have left are leftovers, right? Sometimes weekends you have to go respond to some emergencies and all that. And again, whatever time you have left, you say, we just need quality time, just 2 hours or half a day. So, and then what changed after that when I heard this and I've been living by is that I began to set aside time and not just take whatever is left behind by my work for my family. So an example is for my daughter. I have this thing called, her name is Kyra, right? So I call it Kyra's Day. So it's a day that my wife and I will take at least half a day leave or off, and then we will take her out and say, this is your day. We do whatever you want, and we will spend the time with you. So this is on top of the weekends and sometimes and all that. So I think this is how it kind of reframed my mindset about setting aside time for our family and not just, year end, whatever is available, then you just take leave. And then to me, those are sort of a bit like leftover. So Friday night, I remember with my wife, is our movie night. We love to watch movies. So we set aside Friday night. So these are not leftover, whatever night's leftover, right? It's Friday night.
It's a set time.
It's a set time.
Okay.
And then for my daughter, it's once a month, Kyra's Day, until now. So actually today is partially Kyra's Day. We had one last Friday because her birthday was 2 days ago.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I better let you go because
it's okay.
You gotta get to her.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
But thank you very much for coming on The Usual Place. I really enjoyed chatting with you.
Yeah.
So good luck when G comes around.
Thank you.
And come back. As part of your campaign, please come back and chat with us about how it's going, and we'll check in on your weight.
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
so that's it from The Usual Place today. If you're watching this episode on YouTube, like, subscribe, or hit the notification bell to get fresh content. You can also catch the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or on the ST app. I'll see you next time.